today I feel maybe we were chosen by the Banyans to fight for them.
For this tree to survive, it needs that wasp, and the wasp, for it to survive, it needs those figs, the fruits. The landscape itself, I think, sort of plays a role in enriching, the ecosystem over here. And then it's the trees which sort of anchor it all down.
We said, think out of the box. It should not be either highway or trees. Let it be trees and highway. Guys, it doesn't have to be a straight road.
Sort of gives you a sense of what it must have been during the freedom movement, right? With, unassuming people who are fired up by just their love for nature. There's a whole other experience, and unfortunately, it is not something that everybody has access to anymore, right?
The judgment that came in November 2023 has given us the courage to hope. And I think courage for other, campaigns like this also.
Welcome to GoGreenGuru Sustainability in Action. I'm your host Ananya Sangameshwar, and today we bring to you a special story of hope. A story of citizens coming together to stand up for nature. A story of connection to nature. We are talking about the movement to save the Banyans of Chevella in Hyderabad. 900 heritage banyans and around 13,000 more trees were to be chopped or translocated for expanding a highway. A diverse group of citizens came together, united by just their love for nature. They fought tirelessly through campaigns and legal battles. The tiny seed of a mighty banyan tree is smaller than the egg of the smallest fish. When grown, it is large enough to offer shade to the entire battalion of the king. With this Tamil quotation by a 16th century Pandyan king, Athivirama Pandyan, the National Green Tribunal offered a refreshing judgment in favour of the Banyans of Chevella in November 2023, asking the National Highways Authority of India to conduct an environment impact assessment before touching these trees. The first time an EIA has to be conducted for roadside trees. So do tune into this episode if you would like to rekindle that love for nature, that connect. We have some exciting prompts and activities shared by our guests towards the end of this episode, so don't miss that. Hello, a very warm welcome to our show. I'm so excited to meet all of you here today because the Chevella Banyans campaign is so inspiring and wholesome, and it's close to my heart as well. So let's start with hearing the story of each one of you. So I'd love for you to briefly introduce yourselves, and what is the story of your connection to nature, to Hyderabad, and to these banyans? What's that story like?
Yeah, so I'm Sadhana Ramchander. I have always been passionate about nature since childhood. I grew up being outdoors a lot and helping my mother with the garden. Every time I'm outdoors, I have always felt a connect, and I've always felt very happy being outdoors. The connection with the Banyans was in the 80s when we went on a bike, a big group of friends to Vikarabad, Anantagiri Hills. That was a very popular picnic spot. And although at that time I wasn't looking at trees, I was very happy because there was a huge cover of green all the way. And it was a wonderful drive in rain, actually. We were on bikes and we had a car, and it rained most of the way, and we went in the rain. It was beautiful. So that's a very fond memory that I will never forget. And of course, 2019, when we heard that the Banyans are in danger, We have been working in the field of nature education, in the sense of working in a school, studying trees, studying nature, Kobita and I. And we have also been trying to spread the love of nature among people. And we never wanted to be activists. This was something we were very happy doing, and it was always a happy space for us. So, but when the Banyans were in danger, we said, we can't just keep quiet. We have to go. We have to do something about it. Luckily, by then we had the Nature Lovers group, and there were some people who thought like us, and we said, "Okay, chalo, let's go. Let's try and do something. We are up against huge powers, but let's try and see what we can do. We can't just let the Banyans go." So that's how it started. That's our connection with the Banyans. Today, I feel maybe we were chosen by the Banyans to fight for them.
Yeah, that's really beautiful and touching. That your love for nature automatically made you like, okay, we need to do something for it because it's in
Yes.
danger.
Perhaps I should jump in and introduce myself. I'm Tejah, and it's the opposite for me. I did not have a great appreciation for nature or anything for all the time that I was going. I grew up in a city. I could maybe make out a coconut or a mango at best, and that was it. That was the limits of my understanding of the natural world. Until a few years ago, when Sadhana and Kobita started doing their nature walks. I will let them talk about it. And I was one of the many citizens of Hyderabad who really benefited from a whole new lens, a whole new world that opened up for us. We got to really spend time and appreciate. It's a hard skill, right? I have something that I really like, and then to be able to spread that joy to other people, that is not something that is easy, and that is not something that is possible for many. And luckily for me, Sadhana and Kobita had it, and they were able to share their love and joy for the natural world with many, many people like me. And so I have two young sons, and they had questions about trees, and which I had no answers to. I couldn't identify the tree in front of my house. And so that got me thinking, and that got me in touch with Sadhana and Kobita, and I joined their group, and I got to see the world through their eyes. And I cannot claim to be any more of an expert than I was when I was a few years ago when I first met them. But now I can definitely say that my understanding of the world is much broader and more deeper and more richer because I can now see all the things that I was blind to for most of my life, really. Over to you,
Wow.
Kobita.
Thanks, Deja. Yeah, like Sadhana said, I have been in the lap of, I think, nature ever since I was really young. I grew up in the city, but fortunately for me, I had, my grandmom and my parents, they were all huge plant lovers. So we had, lovely garden. And I, being a single child, I would spend a lot of time just being in this open spaces and playing around, observing. And these moments of my childhood are something that I can never forget. From looking at a bulbul's nest in our garden, from trying to rear grasshoppers and, looking at insects and things closely. And then going into college and being again in a fabulously green space in Chennai and, paying more attention to nature around me because I was, a botany graduate. And then coming to Hyderabad and, I've also lived in Bangalore. So there's a lot of greenery that I've been around with. And Hyderabad was a real eye opener. The landscape was unique to me, and I just completely fell in love with it. Though it was dry and, it was scrubby, but it was just an amazing landscape. Little plants, and I think I'm always drawn to the small. I like to look in, and it was just amazing looking at all the herbs and grasses and insects that Hyderabad hosts. And then, of course, I met Sadhana, and we were doing this activity class for 10-year-olds, and that was another joy. And then, we got into this activity of, taking people on walks. And Sadhana used to say, trying to cure tree blindness for most people. And it was such a pleasure, really, to share the joy of, what we know and what we are seeing with other people who, haven't had that. And, sharing that pleasure was is always exciting. It's always wonderful. And then when the Chevella Banyan, threat came up, I actually had never been on that road. And on the hearsay of so many people and friends and acquaintances that, it's such a wonderful stretch of trees, I then visited sometime in April 2019, and it was just amazing. What a wonderful set of trees that was. And I think there was so much learning through these years from 2019 to now 2023, and I'm still learning. The role that these trees can play and their importance in that landscape. And we continue to, keep an eye on them. And, the hope is always there that perhaps most of them will still continue to stand. But really, the kind of learning that I've had from this entire campaign has been astounding, really.
Really beautiful. I'd love to hear more about these banyans. So, what are these banyans all about? Or what's the history of them, the heritage, and why are they so important for our ecosystem and for Hyderabad?
Okay, so as we know, we're not, 100% sure, but as we know, the banyans were planted perhaps, in the early 20th century. So we are guessing they're anywhere from 80 to 100 years old. And the banyans in question are along a 46 kilometer stretch, or let me say maybe a little more, let's say from Vikarabad till Hyderabad. And we realized very soon that, the fact that these banyans have been standing for decades, for so many decades, itself has helped establish a very important ecosystem. And then you add to this the fact that the banyans have a very special biology where, their all ficus trees are dependent on wasps to pollinate them. And that itself is a significant difference from other plants in that, there's just mostly it's just one wasp per species. So there's one wasp species to a ficus species. And the banyans, of course, have Eupristina masoni, a little fig wasp that pollinates the figs. Now, the thing is that for this tree to survive, it needs that wasp. And the wasp, for it to survive, it needs those figs, the fruits, right? So the wasp can only survive within this. They grow and they reproduce within the fig. And only the female wasps escape to go looking for another fig in which she can lay her eggs, and in the process, she fertilizes the fig flowers. So the banyan over here has to keep the fig wasp alive. And because of that, it produces fruit through the year, not at a particular season, not just once a year, but it can have a couple of flushes or more. And then when you have a row of banyans or a grove of banyans, they're all fruiting at different times. And as you know, the banyan fruits are abundant, especially if they're old trees, even more abundant. And these fruits are loved by several creatures. Okay, so a storehouse literally for all the creatures around, and it's also something like a magnet. It draws creatures to it, right? Because it provides so much of food, and that then it grows into an ecosystem, right? Just one tree itself can function as a small ecosystem where it draws in several creatures. Creatures roost, creatures live there. Some of them, of course, visit seasonally. So there are all kinds, from mammals to birds to insects, whole cross section of fauna, which depend upon the tree, right? And then when you have this, corridor of trees in one of the most fertile areas outside of Hyderabad. So on the western side of Hyderabad, if you know, we have Anantagiri hills, and Damagudam forest, and all of these forested areas. This is the catchment area for the river Musi, which ultimately flows through Hyderabad. And this road begins somewhere in that region, and it connects two reserve forests along the way, Kannapalli and Mudimyal, and it reaches Hyderabad via another national park, which is Mrugavani. And on either side of Mrugavani, we have the two large drinking water sources of Osman Sagar and Himayat Sagar. So the landscape itself, I think, sort of plays a role in enriching, the ecosystem over here. And then it's the trees which sort of anchor it all down, right? So there's something more to it just being a road lined with banyan trees. There's much more happening over here. So we thought it was, so very important. And this, we kind of knew that they were, amazing trees. They had this amazing ecosystem around them. But so many nuances and aspects of it is what we learned while observing the trees over these past 3 years, 3.5 years, 4 years. So they are important. There's no doubt about it.
So what happened to these banyans? So like what was the threat? When did that happen? And how did you get to know about it? What did you decide to do after that?
Yeah, it was in April 2019 that we read a newspaper article that said that the Banyans were going to make the road NH 163, which actually starts from Warangal and then goes on to Bijapur. So they were going to make the road, and I think that article also said that the tree cutting will happen. So when we saw the article, we were like, we were pretty shocked, and we said, and that was the last exit from Hyderabad. All other exits are treeless, and they have a highway. So we were pretty shocked, and we said, we can't just keep quiet, even though we just wanted to work in the field of nature awareness and nature appreciation. We said we must get together and at least try to save these banyans. So we immediately, a group of, I think, about 10, 15 people, we met at Lamakan, and to just brainstorm, to, think about what we can do, how we can go about it. And so we met, we talked about it, and we decided to start an online petition. That was, I think, the first thing we did. And we started the online petition. We went the same day, we drove all the way to Zahirabad, to just see the banyans, to to kind of touch them. I don't know, maybe we were trying to reassure them that we'll try and save them. So we went, and then we got quite, very touched seeing them. And I think we resolved that day to do whatever we can to protect them. And that was when, that was how the journey began. And then there were so many things that we started planning, both in terms of meeting officials, in terms of doing a campaign, planning events. Of course, we started the online petition, and then a series of events at the Banyans. Then we spoke to the press. So those were I think the first things we did. Tejah, would you like to add something else?
Sure. Thank you, Sadhana. And I think there are a couple of other details that I would love to add. Like, so for people like me, it was Sadhana had written a beautiful post, an article, that sort of captured the anguish of many of the people who had spent a lot of time on that road. And it also captured a vision of what is possible if we left those trees in place, right? Whatever we're trying to conserve, whatever we're trying to keep going. And that galvanized many people like me to really, to go onto that road and to sort of spend some time there to understand what is it that really moved all of these people so much. And so then we also joined that group, that came in together at Lamakan to understand, what was at stake in terms. See, there are two things, right? So there is the logic of understanding the value of the trees in the environment at a very visceral level, at a very human level. And then there is the understanding of the legal standing or the procedural standing of these trees, and what is it that we were trying to, what can we achieve within that legal and procedural framework to ensure that those trees stand, right? So there is that, so things that we think are easy and straightforward and normal are normally not easy and straightforward and normal, especially when large complex projects come together, right? And so then so that was what happened then was that we began to understand, we were trying to unravel the complexity in trying to understand where those trees stand in this process and what does it mean to try and keep them there, right? So there are different solutions that are available to this problem. The straightforward one is you just cut those trees down and you expand the road, right? And then the other step is perhaps you can move those trees away, and the word is translocation, right? Do you move those trees away and then you expand the road? And it looked like the policy frame that existed, this was the two most likely solutions. There was nothing outside. And then we realized then that our argument was the third, which is that keep those trees in place, right? So, which is that, it is, so, it almost felt as if that third possibility was not there at all, right? Everybody kind of automatically assumed that those trees were going to either disappear or they'll be pushed to another site, and then the road would get built, and there was no other possibility. And so then we realized that perhaps that our role then is to open up that third possibility and to ensure that in this complex framework of discussing what is development, how do we ensure that the trees and the natural world have adequate weightage, right? When you make those choices, how do you ensure that these natural resources also are given the right value in a sense when you make those kind of development decisions?
I think you brought up something important. So could you like to talk more about the translocation aspect which was suggested and why that really doesn't work? I think you had written articles about it as well on the Chevella Banyan site.
Just that at the very basic level, right, a translocation process works. Right? You can take a tree and you can, right, at the very basic level, at a very individual level, it works. Right? So everybody claimed that translocation was the solution that they were offering. But we felt that it was a hollow offer because there was really, it was not very different from cutting or felling the trees, because there was no real evidence to show that they had the wherewithal to ensure that 900 plus trees would be translocated safely and ensuring their survival. Right? People just it was just a promise that people had to take for granted. Right? There was nothing to sort of substantiate. So that is the larger argument that we were making. Right? So if you want to translocate these 900 plus trees, show us the evidence. Right? So that is it. But if you can't, it is perhaps better to leave the trees where they are. Right? And the argument there is that, if you leave those trees there where they are, they will continue to perform the function that they have always performed, right? And we can find alternatives. It is not as if we are that road is being built through some deep ravine and that is the only path, right? It's flat open land. There are alternatives to that same alignment where you can conserve the trees and also build a road that puts those trees in. Right? So for that to happen, the argument that we were making is that that you can go back to what are called the Indian Road Congress guidelines, which is the protocol in a sense that road building civil engineers follow to build a road, to construct a big highway in India.
So there's very little information available to people about translocation. So we have had to spend a lot of time and energy trying to, first of all, study ourselves because we don't know. So we tried to study and we tried to find out a lot of facts about translocation. So basically, when you translocate a tree, what is done. The entire canopy is removed, branches are removed, and then the roots are trimmed. Not just a banyan, any tree, and just the stump is translocated. So that is something and the chances of survival are, we can't say whether it will survive or not. For example, I'll just give you one example. On the Secretariat Khairatabad Road, there were 200 trees of gold, Tebibia aurea, which used to bloom beautifully every year in March. I'm sure you remember, everybody remembers those trees. And then the government came up with the idea of Formula E races. And for that, overnight, about 100 trees, 125 trees were, they said, translocated. But I have gone myself and I have seen that a number of them were just chopped. And 75 were remaining. Now, when you go there, you can count 6 or 7. So they told us that those trees have been translocated to Sanjivaya Park and to some other parks. So we went and checked. I think hardly 20 have been translocated. So out of 200, and these are trees that can easily be translocated. So one of the things I tell people is, if you can hug a tree, you can translocate it. If you cannot hug the tree, you cannot translocate it. So these trees are actually huggable, but still they did not. They could have done it to save all of them, but it was not done. And the newspaper said that they have all been translocated. So I'm just giving this example because it gives you an idea of how things work or not. Now imagine those 900 banyans being translocated. So our group, actually, we did a lot of research. We studied translocation protocols of other countries. We don't have one in our country. And we actually came up with a very detailed translocation protocol, which actually we hope to pass on to the government, but we have not been successful in doing that. Kobita, you want to say something?
So, yes, translocation is something that is done. It's called transplantation as well for young trees and some older trees if required. But in this case, we're talking about banyans. We're talking about decades old banyans, which each one of which is an ecosystem in itself. So what are we doing? We're disrupting much more. It's not just a tree, it's much more. It's an entire ecosystem you're disrupting. You're disrupting the channels it has created over the years to, soak in water into the ground. This massive, root system, microbial and bacterial colonies. and then the entire, canopy, which has been, supporting a lot of fauna, and at the same time, you're removing all the benefits that we as humans, I'm even trying to, leave out the rest of nature, but we humans were benefiting from these large old trees, and we're removing all of that. That is what is required right now, in fact, because we're all talking about climate change and all these repercussions we're facing just now. And can you imagine, in this process, we are removing all of this, all the benefits that we were incurring, and at the same time, we're releasing a whole lot of carbon instead of sequestering carbon, which now seems to be the buzzword, right? So there's much more here going on with translocation than just removing and moving a tree to a new place.
Couple of further issues. One is, when you're moving those trees, where are you moving them? Right? So one of the things that happens in Hyderabad when translocation happens is that those trees from public grounds are sent away into private lands. Right? Some big rich person who has the land is willing to accept the tree. But the net effect is a tree which you and I can go and hug is now within somebody else's private property. Sorry. In a way, well, I don't want to blame the rich people who can afford to do it. It's a good thing that they're trying to do it. But as a society, there's something for us to think about where public resources are going away into private hands, right? So that is one aspect. There's a second aspect, which is that we are going to now clearly earmark places, where trees will only be, and they will not be anywhere else, right? So trees won't be on the roads; they will only be in parks, right? So if we find trees on roads, we will take them away from the road, and that makes no sense, right? So what we are essentially trying to do is to sort of build these tree ghettos, which is where we sort of house extra trees. Right, you're sort of treating them like these movie posters, that you're moving around, across the city, right? So that kind of it kind of shows a sort of a lack of understanding of why we are doing this. When people talk about climate change, but then they also want to the benefits of burning away or taking away those trees, right? So I think one of the things, and we are just movements like us, right, like the Save Chevella Banyans, is a reminder and to policymakers that that the old ways will not work anymore. That we'll have to follow up the words that we say with actions, right? So if we say trees are important, then we will have to act as if trees are important. It is not enough to just say and then try to literally hide them under, a park sort of carpet. So yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. So these are ecosystems, so we cannot just uproot a whole ecosystem. That doesn't make any sense, as you said. Could you talk more about the campaign? So what did you do? How did you approach the whole issue, and how, like, bringing the campaign forward, doing your research and reaching out to the policymakers, to the citizens? What was your strategies used and the actions you took or the things you proposed? What was that whole story like?
So as I said earlier, we started, I think, going to various officials. We went to the forest department. We went to the collector of Vikarabad. We tried to contact politicians. I mean, we have had we've been wanting to go and meet the highest officials, KCR, to impress upon him the importance of this road and the Banyans. But unfortunately, we never got appointments with these people. So we met the Minister of Road and Transport. We met NHAI themselves. So we had actually done a lot of research and come up with alternative proposals for the road. And so we went and met the local representative, the head of NHAI. And in fact, we went quite a few times to their office to have a chat with them. And we also said that we would like to be involved in the planning of this, because we were very interested in seeing that the trees were kept in situ. And so we did a lot of documentation. So alongside this, we were also doing a lot of events, public outreach. So we had events at the Banyans, uh, plenty of them actually, right from 2020, I think. We did multiple trips on those on the road. We had a first, I think the very first event was a Deepavali event, Deepavali at the Banyans, where people came and we had lamps and everyone stood, holding lamps, and that was a fantastic event. So slowly people started knowing about our campaign. So with regularity, we had these campaigns. There was one pre-Independence Day event, and most recently we had a Christmas at the Banyans. And I think there was one event where we just went and stood in solidarity with the Banyans, just stood quietly. So all this helped people in Hyderabad and outside come to know about our campaign. It really did us a lot of good, gave us a lot of press coverage. We was very happy because the press constantly reported what we were doing. What else? Then that was the geotagging was the next exercise that we took on. Maybe one of you can talk about that.
Yeah, we decided that it would be a good thing to document the trees. We had actually, I think, we have walked and driven several times counting the trees. That I think we were finally in no doubt about our numbers. We were quite sure of our count, but at the same time, we thought, when we geotag, I mean, then after that there's nothing that can go wrong, or no one can argue with you. So that was something that one of our uh, this members, she did very well. And so she organized this entire process, and finally we got it done, having with about 20 people over 4 days. And so we actually covered the entire stretch on foot over these many hours that we did the geotagging. And finally we had this wonderful map of all the trees uh, on the Google Maps. You could actually see this wonderful garland of trees. And so that again gave us something definite, another anchor, another affirmative position, I should say, uh, regarding the importance of these trees. And then of course we had also Mr. Prakash from Warangal, who wanted to do a padayatra. And that again gave further impetus to the campaign, because that was something really amazing. He stepped in and said, okay, I'm going to walk from Warangal. And people joined him, especially I think from Bhongir onwards. There were people from Hyderabad who joined him at various stages and accompanied him all the way till the end of this route, which was Maneguda, you know, the entire stretch of 163 from Murgavani to Maneguda is what we are, concerned with. But he did this stretch from Warangal to through Hyderabad, and then all the way till Maneguda, right? So, and with various people, we had a lot of support. We had a lot of people joining us, through this, especially the last stretch on the outskirts of Hyderabad. We garnered a lot of support. So that was one of very heartening events. And considering Mr. Prakash himself, or has done several of these I think earlier he had done 4, if I'm not mistaken, or at least 3 walks, and he had been successful in getting attention and achieving his goals uh, at his padayatras. And so this kind of boosted our hopes, and you know it was a much needed impetus for us as well, because as these long drawn out very hard campaigns can take a toll on people who are on the ground. So we had our we would on this kind of roller coaster with our hopes flagging and like hitting rock bottom, and then suddenly we would be on a high. So I think so these kind of public support really sort of kept this campaign going. We had artist and a curator who wanted to be inspired by the Banyans and wanted a group of artists and photographers to sort of be inspired and do an exhibition after visiting them. And we actually took them on a small walk and showed them the trees, and various people, they connected in all their own ways with these trees. And at the end of it, we had a wonderful exhibition which was part of the HLF last year, the Hyderabad Literary Festival, and it was really something. So, and that actually had it got a lot of attention, even for us. And considering they were at the HLF, it was actually a really nice thing, that happened again for the Banyans and for creating awareness, basically, of the trees. So I think, all in all, we have walked, I don't know how many times along that road. It's, we were counting. I think, Teja, you remember we were counting, I think we were trying to get a count on not just the banyans, but all the other associated trees along the stretch. So we were walking, we walked several kilometers really with various people who pitched in at different times and said, oh, we can help, and, we'll accompany you and things like that. So it's really been an amazing, journey actually. And just standing under the trees, observing wildlife, documenting the other flora which are associated with the trees. All of this has been, I think has kept us going. At least it's kept me going. Sometimes you look at the larger picture, and sometimes you narrow down and just look at the tree. And it all helps, all these different perspectives, just to keep us going. Yeah.
Well, I just want to add to that. So in January 2022, that was the time when Prakash did the Padayatra. And that was the time when we were all at our lowest, actually. We were feeling really very, very frustrated at the campaign and at what was happening in the court in Chennai. And then he came, and it was really a boost to our enthusiasm. And similarly, 6 months passed, and in June 2022, once again we were, very dejected. And that was the time when one actor, a Marathi and Telugu actor, Sayaji Shinde, he suddenly contacted us and said, I want to help you. And we were stunned. Why would this man do it? And then we learned that he himself has an NGO where he works, to conserve nature, and in his own way, he does. He helps conserve nature. So he contacted us one Sunday afternoon around 2 o'clock and said, "Take me to the Banyans." And no one was free. I also was quite busy, but I said, no, we were not leaving any stone unturned. Any help from anywhere was welcome. So we said, chalo, let's see what this is about. And so me and a friend, Anjali Pandey, both of us dropped everything we had planned that day, and then picked him up from Film Nagar and took him all the way to the Banyans, where, of course, he stood and he kind of spoke and expressed his support for the Banyans. And ever since, he's been our friend. he's been and he's very popular. So he immediately got mobbed over there. It was very interesting, and we kind of felt very happy that we've been looking for some celebrity to help us with this cause, but we haven't been able to find anybody who would because this is something that it is in a way we are against the government, so there were many people hesitant to join us. But this man came, and he was subsequently he made a few videos, and he in his own way he tried to support us, and he still is with us, and we can look to him for help. So these were some wonderful moments that happened in the campaign, which were unexpected and which were very heartening, really, very, very heartening.
Teja, you can give a brief overview of the case at NGT and how.
No. That's the only thing. That's the only missing piece, in the lovely, story that Kobita and Sadhana have just sort of recounted, right? So, I mean, some of these things you just have to be there to sort of get a sense of, what, so like when Prakash came walking and when you see people joining him, and, it sort of gives you a sense of what it must have been during the freedom movement, right? And all that sort of a thing, right? So, you only hear and read about those kind of things, and then to be actually a part of it with unassuming people who are fired up by just their love for nature, it is a whole other experience. And not unfortunately, it is not something that everybody has access to anymore, right? When we gained independence, it seemed to be a far more common phenomenon. Just to but one final missing element in what we were trying to do was we realized that the key thing to do then is to approach the courts, right? We were trying to understand what was the best way to sort of put pressure and to sort of bring to put pressure so that the policymakers understand the value of what we're trying to do. It's ultimately, it is not just about the banyans, right? There are many such banyans across many such highways, many such roads across the country. And there are other groups that are trying to say, please, if there is any value, if there is any change that is possible with this kind of intervention, we were hoping that will also help others. Like, for example, the campaign to save trees across the steel flyover in Bangalore. Right? So that so the campaigners there, they shared their insights and their experience and their research methods with us, and that sort of fed into our own process. Here, so things like that, right? So that was with all this, we went and approached the National Green Tribunal, the NGT, the Southern Bench, and ultimately our plea was to understand. There were several questions that we were raising. One is the fundamental fact that trees don't have any space in our legal. Maybe if they are a forest or if they are part of a like a sacred grove or something, perhaps they would be recognized as part of that grouping in a sense, right? But individual trees, unless they're like really special or like most trees don't have any legal value excuse, overnight trees just disappear. Right? So they are like buntings that come and go during elections, right? So what we were trying to understand then is, okay, so then how do you sort of build a space for them? And how do you sort of build a legal standing for them? So how do you ensure that the trees are taken and accounted for? So our petition was basically to try and ensure that, we are not experts in building roads, right? We are not civil engineers. All we are trying to do is to ensure that they, as engineers who are building public resources, they are beholden to the public. Right? And when the public says this is important, they have to factor that into their plans. Right? If we say trees are important, they will have to factor that into their infrastructure project. Right? So that was essentially our argument. So the petition that we put basically recognized the value. I mean, from our argument, right? Our argument was to show the value of the trees, and we were also pointing out to us several unique features of how NHAI, the National Highways Authority of India, operates. So, for example, as Kobita mentioned, the National Highway 163, NH 163, stretches from Warangal all the way to Gulbarga, right? But the stretch between Warangal and Hyderabad is already done. They did it in 2 phases, and they've sort of developed. They've cut a whole bunch of trees, all that stuff. Now they are beginning from outside Hyderabad toward at 45 kilometers. That is Manegura, right? So why is this? Why is it they're doing it in phases? Right? NHI claims that that is how the money flows in. Right? They get a limited budget, and depending on the budget and depending on the demand, right, that is either traffic increase or demand from local resources, they choose a project. Right? But many campaigners suspect that there is another element as well, which is that if your highway is more than 100 kilometers, you need to do an environmental impact assessment. Right? You need to factor in the natural the natural landscape when you're making this project, which is a pain. Right? They don't want it. So almost all their projects are under that, and which is even at 100 kilometers is a fairly bit of a, why should it be? Why can't you take the entire highway into account when you're building, when you're building this project? Right? So that was one thing that we were trying to highlight. Right? Because NHI can pick any road, right? The road outside your house or my house, they can make it a national highway, right? And one of the things that we highlighted is that this particular road was built by the Nizam, right? The Nizam's government. Right? So it was not built to be a modern highway. Right? The National Highway Authority claimed that they were only upgrading it. So because it is a small stretch, it is small as in it's only a 45 kilometer stretch. And because they were only upgrading a highway, they didn't have to do much. They just had to, and they were offering translocation as a favor, as a benefit that they were considering the ecological impact of their work, and that is why they will translocate all the 900 odd trees. And so our argument was that so none of this holds basis, right? That this was not an upgrade, right? This is a whole new highway because the original road was built close to 100 years ago, and that has been laid on top. It has been expanded, but it is nowhere close to being a modern highway, which means they'll have to scrape it all out and build a brand new highway, which in a sense is building a brand new highway. So that was our argument. And also we were also saying that if you're going to do that, then you must consider the environmental impact assessment. You should consider it because then you will understand the true value of what you are destroying in a sense. And so that is what the NGT agreed with. So they finally said yes. Right? The banyans have value. They are unique trees, and there are about 900 of them. Right? They are fairly old. In this day and age, conserving those trees in situ is far more valuable than trying to plant saplings or the compensatory afforestation, which is another technique that it's another method that large infrastructure projects use. Right? They cut one tree here and they claim to have planted 10 saplings elsewhere. Nobody knows how many of them survive, and there is no comparison, right? A whole huge tree. Right? And so there was this new study that we were reading where it says like a 10-meter tall, 600 centimeter wide banyan can save up to 6 tons of carbon. It can sequester close to 6 tons of carbon. When will those saplings grow enough? How long will they take to sequester that amount of carbon? And it's a whole. So the NGT judgment finally came, accepted our argument. They said those trees are unique, and the NHA had been amiss in finding alternatives to keeping all those trees in situ. So they said, you go back, do an environmental impact assessment so you truly understand the cost of what you're trying to achieve. And then see if you can, and then you have a better sense of building a new alignment, or finding a new alignment, or leaving those trees where they are, or some such arrangement which is acceptable to both the court, the tribunal, to all of us citizens, and to NHAI, right? So that is where we are.
Yeah, thank you for sharing this. And the reason I asked to share the details is maybe if citizens elsewhere want to, fight for trees like this. So, what are the things that we may need to consider, or what are the things we may need to do? And another thing this Chevella Banyans campaign is testament for is the citizen participation. You actually managed to rally a huge number of citizens together over the years. And I think it was unique because it brought in the love for the Banyans. It reclaimed those public spaces. I remember there was a poetry event as well, which I had attended at the Banyans. So things like that, right? Bringing that, using art, using music or literature and nature walks, all kinds of things, just to bring that love to people, that sense of love and fascination that we have for the Banyans, being able to share that and bring more people to the cause. So that is a very special thing which I would love you to talk about. So how did we rally citizens together, and what can other citizens learn from this whole thing of citizen participation? How can we enable citizen participation more to save our nature?
Yeah, so what I feel is that it was a very big struggle for us. It's not that we just did it. It may seem like that now, but every event was a struggle. Every going to every office, getting an appointment, going was a struggle. We just, you know, we just tried very hard to find our way around. And now, when we look back, yes, we did a lot of things. How we did it, as I said, it was very, very tough. People were not coming. Everybody is busy. We are all busy. Everyone has a profession. People are, there are students studying, professionals, and it's very difficult to take time out and come for the events. Yet we planned events, and people came. I think 30, 40, 50, they did come all the way to Chevella, the Banyans. We used to have, there was a time when we actually conducted walks, uh, banyan walks, just to make people come on that road and see and appreciate the banyans. So there was a time when, like these walk we used to conduct every month, and there was one month when there was just one participant. No one came. So it was just me and Anjali who was conducting this walk, and one other person, and yet we did it. So these are very, frustrating and depressing moments. But we said, let's do it, nevertheless. If it's one person, doesn't matter. That one person, we will be opening that person's mind to the beauty and the importance of these banyans. So it was really persistence. It was kind of stubborn hope, I think. And many times we didn't even have the courage to hope. So, as I keep saying, the judgment that came in November 2023 has given us the courage to hope. And I think courage for other, campaigns like this also. That is one thing that's a very big thing that happened. Uh, and but all along, we knew that we were doing something right. We were not, our slogan has always been road bhi, jhad bhi. We never said we don't want the road, we, don't make the road. We never said that. So we were not against the government. We said, think out of the box. The time has come when climate change is a big threat to the whole world, and we need to think out of the box and come up with a solution. It should not be either highway or trees. Let it be trees and highway. Guys, it doesn't have to be a straight road. Think about it, do something different. And we wanted to also tell our state government that this road is so important, um, that they should understand the importance of the biodiversity on that road, the Mudmiyal forest, the banyan trees, and 9,000 other trees. Let's not forget 9,000 other trees. It's not just 900 banyans, it's 9,000 other trees. And this is what we wanted to tell the state government. Make the entire road a heritage, Telangana Biodiversity Heritage Road. Have old type of picnics and entertainment, old type of things. Why should you speed on every road? Take a break from your life. Go slow. Breathe the fresh air. Uh, do other things. Sit under the banyans. Have a picnic. This kind of things. You can even think up other kinds of old pastimes. So uh, this is what we wanted to tell our state government, and we have said it in our, I think, in our petition, in the documents, in many documents that we have written on this subject. I think there's one document we came up with about how we can make this a heritage road. So these are all the things that are important, and I think it was more than anything else that belief that this is important and that the banyans have to be saved. That is what kept us going, despite many disappointments, despite many hurdles that we came across. Um, so I think it's a determination. It is a kind of a belief in ourselves, belief that this is the right thing to do, and that if not us, who will do it? We were there, and as I said right in the beginning, maybe the Banyans chose us to do this. Yeah.
Yeah, as Sadhana says, it was hard, not easy to get people to support the cause. It's not like, we had the kind of crowds that some other such campaigns, for nature have seen in other parts of the country. But it was just sheer, I think, pig headed determination. And the fact that we believed that we were doing the right thing. So, no matter what the, ultimate fate of these trees, we just believed that, we had to. There was no way we could not. It became that sort of thing, it was like almost like a sense of duty to those, to these, silent but giving trees. We just felt we had to speak for them. And I think that is what kept us going. Of course, with also impetus from, various people at various turns who, would just pop up. I think Tejah knows so many, reporters, journalists who reached out to him over time and, suddenly just said, oh, we'd like to do something, it's just like you, wanting to, sort of record the experience or know about the importance, or also sort of document it for other such kind of campaigns. There were various interested people, and I think every one of them, however small, gave us a sense of it was a sort of assurance that okay, we're still doing the right thing. And I think that kept us going, and that's very important. I think when one is trying to do such a difficult task, is to keep that sense of okay, I need to see this through to the end, whatever it may be. It's okay, right? I mean, yes, we all will be disheartened at certain times, elated at certain times, but it's fine. I don't think we should look at it as that that only if we win, or keep that as the goal, and then say, oh, this is not going anywhere, I think we can drop it. I don't think that's the way to approach things. And I think that's how things were approached in the past, in pre-independence and things like that. You believed in something and you just gave it your all. It was not a question of getting a reward, right? That was not the goal. And now it's become that sort of an environment where you're always seeking a goal and affirmative. For us it's not that. It's okay. I mean, at least personally speaking, it's fine either ways. Yes, the hope is always there, at the back, and reality, right? You accept it, and things can go this way or that way. But if you give it your all, and you're doing the right thing, and here it's a collective, it's not just a couple of individuals, it's a whole bunch of people. And we reached that stage where we knew, I think by the time we went to NGT, we knew we were doing the right thing. It was something that should be done. It's an awareness that It's like Sadhana and me doing tree walks. We'll never get tired of it, right? It's something that we think is so important, right? And we're okay with even one person or two people or whatever, And we're okay if no one shows up also. We kind of, we've spoken about this so many times that, hey, both of us will enjoy this moment and enjoy, the next 1 hour, even if no one shows up, that sort of thing, right? So, it's just such a joy to be out. And I think there are many things to be approached in this fashion where, you don't, necessarily look for rewards and accolades or anything. You just go do what you have to do. Simple, and hope for the best. Simple. Yeah. Keep the hope going.
No, I just wanted to also add that there is some the other interesting thing, and this is something that we've been reminding people, is that we are not an NGO, or we don't we are literally just what we claim we are. We are a bunch of citizens, disparate, from disparate backgrounds. There is something about this approach that this experience sort of is making me look at and understand that there is a role for citizens within the social space to do, something like this, where, you won't find us campaigning for all sorts of, here's the problem, right? The state, as we call it, like the government or the state, right, is a multi-armed, multi-natured thing. Right? Literally, everybody cuts trees. Yeah, it is very easy for individuals or groups like us to sort of dissipate our energies by, going wherever the state operates. You turn up there, and then you are in multiple places. Your energies are dissipated, and you kind of you lose steam, right? And what we ended up doing, we picked one issue, right? These were these diamonds. We doggedly followed that in every avenue possible. If we had to meet policymakers, we went and met them. If we had to go to the NGT, we went and we would, when other movements came together, we offered support. We sought support from them. All that was happening, right? But this was the one thing that we did, and perhaps that is the model for citizens around the country, right? To spend time and to find that one issue and ensure that you follow through. That is what citizen movements are about, and to me, that has been the revelation of this entire journey, at least.
Yeah, I totally agree with Teja. We need to be focused, and that's important. Need to be focused, and we need to acquire as much knowledge as we can and just continue learning and put that out for other people to understand as well. And I think we've been so very good at communication. I think we're very lucky to have fantastic people who are, part of, in this business of communication. Teja, Sadhana, Usha, I mean, so many people. And, so I think that's been a huge plus. You have to communicate well. You have to communicate at the right time with the right information. And really, the thing is to do it well. And there's never been any personal agenda ever. Ever. It's not there at all. And even within the group, for it to function well, there's never been a thing of, oh, I'm not getting any support, so and so is not, pulling their weight. It's not that, because we all understand everyone's got their issues, right? So you step up and help where you can, and somehow it happens, right? So you have an expectation from people that they will step up, but you don't, sort of point it out. It just kind of comes together. So, that I think has been a wonderful learning. You need to have people with different talents, and, that faith that those who have, sort of risen to the occasion to help will eventually do their bit, right? We never had to ask anybody. And if someone couldn't, it was okay, right? Someone else would, step in to fill the breach, or we just went with it. Like Sadhana said, even if there are two people, you just go with it. Just do that sort of thing. So I think these things worked eventually. But we really did. It was a coming together of just wonderful people.
And especially the coming together of so many different kinds of people, right? From children to working professionals to educators and all kinds of people just coming together and with their own talents, skills, perspectives, life journeys. So that's it's really beautiful the way uh, things just come together when we let it just happen, when we let it just flow.
Yeah.
And another thing which I liked about this campaign, the energy at the various events conducted for sensitizing citizens to make us feel more connected to the space itself and bringing in that energy of fun, uh, curiosity, learning, uh, excitements, all of that. And I think that's really important because otherwise we kind of feel hopeless or tired, like, okay, why should I care? But then when you give reasons, when we come to such spaces, we find our own reasons to care. We just we just find that connection with the space, with the people. And yeah, another thing which is important is reclaiming the public spaces. It's like as you said, make just going out for picnics on under trees, being in those spaces, or having some event, having meeting people, or doing some poetry or art, or just going around and exploring. So that's really important. We need to, and we think, okay, in urban places we are separate from nature. It's not a part of our life, but there are so many pockets of nature still. And if we just go around to actually spend time, just spend time. It's for our own joy as well. We just being in nature, it brings in so much joy, right? And then once we start spending time and then we develop a love for a space, and then eventually if there is a need, we might even stand up for it. So thank you so much. And maybe to close, another one of my favorite aspects of it, so that the people listening to this podcast, they can take a seat back and say, okay, how can I connect better to nature? How can I uh, you know find that connect so that I can, and maybe eventually even raise my voice for nature. So if you could share a journaling prompt or a question that can help people reflect and explore this question and bring the joy of nature into our own lives.
Yeah, I would say,
Well, I have one.
how about spending, 10 minutes at some point in the day listening to nature, just listening, hoping that you'll hear something. Listen, mark it, even if, it's just a lizard on your wall at 9 p.m. That's fine. I mean, think about it after that. We need these little times to reflect upon, these things and ask questions. The curiosity should never die down. So ask questions. Why is the lizard there? And that'll lead to several more questions and, a connect. There's always a sense of wonder and joy, if we take that time out to, just listen or look at something around us in our surroundings, which is not um, built by humans, let's say. And, I think that would be nice. Just give 10 minutes of quiet time listening.
I wanted to say something that Kobita told me, which is that, the trees basically in Hyderabad are migrants, like many of the people who are here, right? If you see the landscape around Hyderabad, it is nothing like Hyderabad itself. So the large, tall trees that you see in Hyderabad are because of human intervention. Right? So there is something about trees being migrants, along with all the migrants who make up Hyderabad, right? Because any large city is a city full of migrants. That includes trees as well. So that would be my prompt, right? Who are the migrants around you? Who are not just, it's of course people, not just them.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that there is nature all around us. Just because we are living in a city doesn't mean that there is no nature. You don't have to go to Corbett or any of those national parks in order to enjoy nature. It's not about having a huge lens and a huge camera and things like that. You just have to go out. There are lovely parks. Hyderabad, we are very lucky to have beautiful parks in the city, and I have observed that every day different things happen in the same place. So you can go to the same park, to the same place, and see new things every single day. So seasons change, and with seasons, it becomes, I mean, there's all kinds of different beauty that uh, nature exhibits: birds, insects, trees, flowering. It's always things are happening in nature. So one just has to understand how to open your mind, open your eyes, look up from the phone, and uh, look up at nature. And that's what everyone should do, actually. It's very, very therapeutic. So that's my advice to just anyone.
Yeah, all beautiful exercises. I'm sure uh, you'll all be excited to try it out and think about the stories of nature. Just open our senses to the beings around us. There's so much waiting to be discovered. There's so much for us to explore. We just let ourselves do it. There's so much joy we can get in that process. Just the process. So, how can people uh, learn more about the Chevella Banyans campaign, and or if there are any more ways people can support it and stay in touch? So, would you like to share any handles and other campaign updates?
Yeah, so we are on Instagram, Facebook, and we have a website also. We put regular updates on Twitter also. What's it called now? X. So we put regular updates on all these social media, and people can follow. We post about our campaigns, whatever upcoming events that we have. So please join us. Sign our online petition that's still there, and you can just Google Chevella Banyans campaign, change.org, and you can get there. These are all things. I mean, once people come to one of our events, they can get in touch with us, and uh, they can join our endeavor to. It's a continuing. The campaign is ongoing, and it's not over yet. We still have the fight is on, and we are continuing to hope that we will see a happy resolution to this, to the Banyans issue in 2024. So we started on a good note, and people are welcome to join us. If not anything, let them just go and see the Banyans. Drive to Anantagiri Hills on their bikes, as I did once, and see the trees, enjoy the trees, and then they'll understand. I've been taking so many people on that road, and it's only when they see that they say, oh, now we know why this fight has been what it has been. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for this conversation. It shares so much insight about understanding our ecology, our city more, and understanding the power that citizens can have if we just come together, if we go on that journey together, and how we can, just find that connect with nature and find joy in that whole journey. Thank you so much for this. This is a story of hope, and I'm sure it's going to ignite hope in so many more people to continue to be in connect with our nature and fight for it. Are you touched and inspired? I'd love to know what you think and feel. So do share in your comments and reviews. Share this show to as many people as possible to spread the movement. And Subscribe to the show so you don't miss any future episodes.